Welcome to the Scam Economy with your host, Matt Bender.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Scam Economy Post Show. My name is Matt Bender. You know that. This is the 20th Scam Economy Post Show. But you know how it rolls. The Scam Economy Post Show is just like the Doomed Post Show, my other show, where you can call in and talk about anything. Crypto, politics, current events. You know my wheelhouse. Whether you want to talk about the latest internet scam you came across, or how everything is shit because of what the Supreme Court is currently doing. You can, we can talk about whatever. That Skype username to call in is right there in the description of the feed, of the YouTube feed, I should say. Right there in the description, it should say Doomed Live. Open up Skype, type in Doomed Live. My Skype username should pop up, and boom, bada bing, you can call in. Let's someone just multiple people just tried to call in and then they hung up. I wonder if that was a Skype issue. Let's do it. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
What's up, dude?
Oh, hey, is this Brian?
Yeah.
Hey, Brian from Alabama, right?
Yes, sir.
I remembered. All right, I'll bring in. Can I bring in your video feed? Right? Yep.
Yeah.
Cool. Yep. For people who don't know, Brian called in on the Tuesday, on the Tuesday feed for Doomed, and he shared, his experience, basically de-radicalizing out of the cryptocurrency. The conspiratorial, I should say, overlap there. Easy to make that mistake. The conspiracy theory world into sort of the Jimmy Dore world, if you're not familiar with Jimmy Dore. And then he ended up becoming falling into like listening to the Majority Report, listening to this show, and he's found his where his politics lie, I guess, right?
Well, for the record, I'm more radical now, being that I'm so woke. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. Well, you know what they say. Once you, by they I mean the right. Once you go woke, you go broke. But I can say that I can say I've been broke way before I was woke. So there's no correlation there.
I can relate to that. Yeah, man. See, it was Tuesday. I was excited and nervous at the same time.
No,
man.
You were great, man. You were honestly I've had people reach out to me, email, messages saying how they really enjoyed that conversation. I don't know if you caught the Majority Report earlier today when I was on with Sam Cedar. I told I mentioned him to you. We went into this whole conversation about his last discussion with Jimmy Dore. And a lot of people in the chat were bringing it up and saying how much they enjoyed it.
Oh, okay. I was in the chat. I tried calling. See, I don't have the Majority Report app because I don't my smartphone, like the battery died on it, so I couldn't IM. I forgot what you had said about the Twitter.
Oh yeah, well when Sam's at the helm, he doesn't take many calls. But next time, Next time,
I wasn't tripping though, man. Like I said, I wasn't tripping when I first started trying to call Sam. That was around the time I first started watching. And like I would rather just call here. I don't know. He's kind of intimidating. I'm just kidding.
Well,
I tried to get through today.
To me, the intimidating thing about calling in with Sam isn't so much him being Sam Cedar. It's how he takes his calls. Where you gotta really get to the point. You gotta on this show. It's a little bit more. This show's a bit more relaxed. You could, we can discuss through things. Unless, of course, you're a libertarian and calling up Sam. Exactly. Then Sam will spend about an hour and a half with you, and you can take your sweet ass time.
Until you start talking slavery and shit like that.
Right. Yeah. So what do you want to talk about, Brian?
Oh, first of all, I said Discord a few times. I meant discourse last time.
Right.
Let's clear the record for that.
Yeah, I think everyone knew.
The whole coke thing, man. That was a joke, dude. I was just joking, man. And when I chugged that drink, it went up into my nostrils and stuff. I think it went to my brain, man. It like made me fuzzy. I couldn't think straight after that.
I gotta tell you, people in the
later that night, man, I couldn't sleep. I was up all night, man.
Well, that's why I drink my soda 24/7. But people in the live chat were mentioning it, and I got to tell you, what you were doing. I now that I know it was a joke, I'm letting you know that I appreciate the joke. I get it now. But for me, what you were doing was so normal to me that it didn't even faze me. I was like, oh, dude drinks a lot of soda just like.
He's got cotton mouth. Yeah. But for the record, I just want everyone to know, mine's still bigger than yours, dude.
It's true, right? I gotta. Maybe next time I'll bring in the 2-liter and I'll just drink out of that.
No, man. I drew a blank on a few issues. I just wanted to talk about like the QAnon. The thing about the QAnon. The reason I didn't get into the QAnon is the way they have that shit set up. Like, if you get in the QAnon or you don't, either way, you're going to Nazi shit. See, because like I didn't like Donald Trump. I always knew he was a con artist. I knew he was taking that dirty money from, all that dirty evangelical money. That's why he put Paula White in the White House as his spiritual advisor, like giving her a government check. And she told him to move that embassy in Jerusalem and whatnot. I've always known the Palestine conflict that always made me kind of anti-Israel and, et cetera. So I was anti-Donald Trump, but where that took me instead of QAnon, see, I didn't fall for QAnon at first. I did fall for the kind of the Hollywood, like whatever. And there might be something shady there. I really don't really give a shit, to be honest with you, until they get found guilty. I don't like to speculate no more because that's what all that shit was. It's just speculation and things of that nature. But so what had happened was there's this guy, his name's Brandon O'Connell. He's on YouTube. And then there's Adam Green. No More News. He was on YouTube. He got banned. So now he's on those dumbass platforms like Rumble and BitChute and all that. But at that time, the reason I get into QAnon, I got sucked into that other hole. And that other hole is them. And at the time, I didn't know they're white nationalists and they're Nazis, I like the content because it was anti-QAnon, anti-Trump, and they attacked Israel and Zionism. And I've always been against, the conflict in Palestine and all the money that we give Israel, It seems like, they have the biggest, what was it, APEC? They have one of the biggest, donor class. They donate to both sides, So
right. When it comes to conspiracy theories, you got to be really careful with, because from the left, I think, leftists obviously are in the right when it comes to their position on Israel and how, it's basically what they're doing to the Palestinian people is apartheid. And I mean, it is. But I can tell you that those conspiracy theorists on the right and those right wingers, they don't really care about the Palestinians. The ones who are anti-Israel, they don't care about the Palestinians. They just don't like the Jews. And I got to tell you that what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, I mean, the vast majority of American Jews that I have met, I mean, I'm ethnically Ashkenazi Jew. My father is, ethnically and religiously Jewish. Every Jew I know is outspoken against what Israel does. I mean, Israel is run by a far right regime. Even the new government is a right wing regime. When Netanyahu was in charge, it was a far right regime. Being against what Israel is doing and against the Israeli government is no different than criticizing the Donald Trump administration and the U.S. under Donald Trump. If you cannot, and I'm not saying you specifically, I mean the people out there who see every attack or critique, I should say, of Israel as some sort of like anti-Semitic thing. It's ridiculous. It's no different than like, oh, if you attack or critique Donald Trump, you're anti-American because he was a U.S. president. No, of course not. So yeah, but that's how they get you, I think. And again,
Yeah,
not
exactly.
you
That's how he
specifically.
wrote me in.
Yeah, you got to be
Yeah.
careful with those guys because they're not critical of Israel for the same reason. Myself or Sam Cedar or anyone else on the left is. They are critical of Israel because they are anti-Semites.
Exactly. See, and it's crazy how the evangelicals, they act like they love Israel, but they just want their prophecy to be fulfilled so their God can come back. They want the Jews dead too, because that's their prophecy is Jesus is going to come back and kill all the Jews. They act like they love Israel. They want Israel to get everything. They want that embassy to Jerusalem. But there's something else I was talking about. I got distracted on it. But yeah, that's about why I didn't fall for the QAnon thing. And I want to get the timeline. The timeline is probably around August 2020. I think when COVID hit. Up until about, I was skeptical, and then I started watching that American Vagabond around November. But even by February, I was straight. I was only into that fake COVID shit for about 4 months. By that time, I was watching Majority Report. And I remember it was a Steven Crowder. That's what got me on Majority Report when Sam and Ethan from H3 set Crowder up with the debate. And that's when I really started watching Majority Report, the live streams. I used to catch them. I never watched the full live streams. I started watching the full live streams. But like with the conspiracy stuff, I remember now I did get Jimmy Dore just pop up. And what happened is I started watching Jimmy Dore. And then I got on Facebook and I went to the Jimmy Dore group. And I used to just go in there and like, it's funny because on Facebook, how they have the left-wing groups, right-wing people, it's like 50-50 left, 50 right. The right-wing people just like to come in there and argue, you know what I mean? So I'd be fighting with Trumpers all the time in there. And then I guess the conspiracy nuts that were in that group saw kind of some of the shit I was saying at the time. So I was real conspiratorial all the time. And they started friending me. And I got these friends now from the Jimmy Dore Facebook group, and they started sending me all kinds of crazy ass videos, man. And that lasted until about March of 2021. And ever since then, I've been like full, I don't know, it's not a red pill, blue pill, what do you want to say? I don't know.
I don't know what you, I guess, I don't know. I guess de-radicalized in a sense because the content that you were checking out at first. But yeah, I mean, I bet it wasn't long. You know, you said it was about 4 months, but I mean, I guess during that time period when people were home because of the pandemic and they're just online a lot, it probably felt like a lot longer than the usual 4 months outside of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I dove deep into it, man. I'm talking about like maritime amorality law, fake moon landings, all that shit. Another funny thing I wanted to talk about, like your Tim Pool debate. Dude, I remember something specific from that. First of all, I remember the only time he got mad during that whole debate was when he was talking about black people getting help in college.
Oh, he got
his face lit up, man. He was so pissed off. And that dude,
you know, I
don't believe nothing he says. I don't even know if he's got Korean blood. He's got a full beard, man. I'm half Chinese. I can't even grow a facial hair, man. But either way, I don't care.
No, let's not go. I know you're joking, and you know you.
No, I'm just talking about. Remember the RA the Rugged Man went on there? Did you watch that?
Yes,
that's what I was referencing. Yeah, I'm not even really care about all that stuff, but
Oh wait, did they talked about that when Rugged Man was on there? I don't know.
The Majority Report, yeah, they touched on it. Yeah. That shit was good, but I remember I told you I went on that podcast and I was just repeating shit I heard like a right winger when I was like a conspiracy guy. I was just repeating shit. Well, I talked to that guy. I've been trying to get him back on this side now because I think I kind of drove him down a conspiracy hole. When I went on his podcast, he was just like a normal anarchist. I was talking that crazy shit, and now he's like seems to be like going the direction I was going. I went the other way. And I called him around the time he did that Tim Pool debate, and we got an argument. But I remember he got mad at me, and he says he did something. He goes, he started explaining to me what Dantology is, and how I didn't understand it.
Wait, who is this? Who said this to you?
This is some guy. Remember I told you I did a podcast, and I was talking about the stuff I was learning, the conspiracy stuff,
Right.
and it was like so. When I went on his podcast,
that's what Tim Pool brought up to me.
exactly,
Yeah.
dude. He had seen your podcast with Tim Pool, and he had exactly come to me when you were talking about, I can't talk to Sam Cedar because if I bring up like deontology, and you could tell he had his like computer up and he was reading the shit like straight from his computer, like he's Mr. Smart Guy. Then he tried to drop some big ass word like procrastinity or some shit. You could tell that motherfucker was just reading off the screen.
Yes, yeah. I mean,
Yeah. This dude did the same exact thing, man.
I really do not like when those conversations go that way. It's so
Dude,
it's so
the whole
listen,
last-
I like, you know, this is my from where I've come from in terms of like how I always come across this stuff. It's like usually when they start getting into like the philosophical stuff and you know the hypotheticals and the ontological ethics and all that. From my experience previously, it was like when you had those like political live streamers, YouTuber debates that were going on for like 7-8 hours. And I guess they just ran out of actual real world things to talk about. So they just started getting
exactly.
So like I have very little patience for that stuff. It does not interest me. It does not, you know, I just, if I understand that there are streamers out there who like to get into that stuff. And I know there are even listeners of mine who have told me like, yeah, but if you know that stuff, you could get a little bit deeper into. I mean, I don't care to get into the deeper like ethics and the you know philosophy of the thinking. I don't. It just no. I don't care. Like I don't need to get into that to understand that your position is wrong. If you know, you know what I mean. Like it just doesn't.
Yeah, and they try to apply that stuff where it's not even relevant. It doesn't even belong. You know, and that last hour of that debate, man, he just ruined the whole thing. Like the whole last hour of y'all's debate, where he was just trying to corner you with the abortion issue and that super religious dude.
Yeah, it was way too long on the abortion stuff. Listen, I really enjoyed doing it, and I hope he has me on again. But you know, I don't think that was interesting for his listeners. I should say that. I should say though that my appearance on there is one of the highest viewed episodes of his. So I mean,
really,
people certainly were into it. But I think that portion of it was not all that, you know. I think he you know, he could have given his audience better than that. The other stuff we talked about I thought was interesting.
Yeah, the first 2 hours was good. And I mean, I don't understand how you go in the comments and man, the fanboys, they're all talking like he's like winning the debate. Dude, you beat him on every point. That was when you were asking me about why when I was Jimmy Dore and then I went to Sam Cedar, why I, you know, changed positions. And it wasn't just that Sam had his facts right. So, and this is how Jimmy Dore got me. Jimmy Dore, he offers no solutions at all for anything, first of all. He just wants to get you riled up. He's going to point at somebody that's a bad guy, tell you how crooked they are, or, you know, drop a conspiracy to make you hate them, get you pissed off at them. He gets you riled up. And then, I don't know, man, the way that he becomes funny is after he riles you up, it's like comedy, outrage comedy. He then goes and whoever he's got you pissed off at, he'll just start ragging on him. You know what I mean? And then at that point, you're so pissed off and you heard all this crazy shit he said that it's like funny. You know what I mean? But when I went to Sam, as opposed to him, he'd be like, if you're debating an issue, that motherfucker would be like, well, what about in 1985 when the Congress passed this bill? And he'll read all it and tell you like straight off the top. He's never reading. You can tell this is all like straight off the top. You know, it's always about policy. And he always has, you know, policy to back up his position. They never have that, dude. They always have a conspiracy to back up something that you can't even prove. You know? Right. It's just speculation and hearsay. And that's when I realized, man, these motherfuckers are dumb. It's all a distraction.
It really is. It really is a disservice to the actual problems. Like, you know, instead of telling people the actual issues and things that, I mean, because, you know, the outrage is obviously well-founded in terms of like,
Yeah.
People are not doing well. They are in debt. People are paying, have less money. People are, worried about, the price of, basic necessities, paying rent. Their housing situation. All these issues are very real. And on top of that, the issues of there being very powerful people who are hoarding up all the wealth. These are all very real issues. But instead of just saying like, no, this is like power dynamics, this is class struggle, class war. This is, all these, capitalism. This is exactly what it brings. This is exactly what it rots. Like, instead of directing their audience to the actual issues, they say it's the lizard people. Blame the Jews. It's Antifa. They'll always find some other to direct their audience's hatred towards. Really, and really what like people like Alex Jones and their ilk do are a great service for these corporatists and these major corporations and big finance, the big banks. Like they do them a real service by taking the eyeballs off of them and putting it on some other.
Yeah. Other that you don't even,
And blame the immigrants. It's got to be the Mexicans, right?
Exactly.
Or the Muslims, or always some other that actually isn't powerful and actually isn't doing anything to you.
Yeah.
And in fact, these are the people who you should have like solidarity with in terms of like some sort of whether it's a class struggle or social justice issues. But they direct your anger towards those people, and then the corporations and the very powerful politicians who are actually doing this stuff to you. They get they're wiping their brow and very thankful that the ire isn't directed towards them.
Yep, and they vote against their own interests. They're angry at the people most of the time are in the same situation as them, because you're talking about most of these MAGA and right wingers. Well, I'm not going to say most, but, like they don't get mad at Elon Musk. He makes like $86 billion just swapping money on the stock market. He dodges taxes, takes loans out, against his stock, pay stock options. But they're like, they worship that guy. But the poor person who's trying to escape poverty, they might get a welfare check one day. So, you better get it,
Right. Yeah. They're taking your money. Well, all the while you're subsidizing some major big companies in various different giant industries so that they can fill their pockets and then charge you still an exorbitant fee for whatever product or service they provide, but low enough because they're getting subsidized by the government, but low enough to you so you feel like you could it's still doable, it's still purchasable, it's in the realm of possibility. But yeah, Brian, this is another great call, and this is just your first week of calling. Thanks so much. We got some other people on the line, so want to take some other calls. Have a great night, and look forward to talking to you again.
Certainly. Thanks, man.
Take care. Yeah, Brian, damn, to have Brian as a regular listener is great. He's been on fire 2 days in 2 episodes in a row. Let me switch over the background because I think I should make it clear that these post shows can be anything. Let's take this call. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm sorry. Give me just 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Hi.
Yeah, I took your call pretty fast, so don't worry about it. You probably need to get your headphones on or something.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi. Sorry. Doesn't matter. This is Santiago from Rhode Island.
Hey, Santiago. What would you like to talk about?
Well, I was going to talk about the decision today, the gun rights decision. But before I start on that, I wanted to bring up a tweet that I just saw from Neil Katyal, where he says that it's. Oh, give me just 1 sec. He says, Gonna be very weird if the Supreme Court ends a constitutional right to obtain an abortion next week, saying it should be left to the states to decide, right after it just imposed a constitutional right to concealed carry of firearms on the states, saying it cannot be left to the states to decide. And the funny thing about that is that he wrote an op-ed supporting why liberals should back Neil Gorsuch.
Right. Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. Also,
Yeah.
it's not very weird. I mean, it's pretty clear. It's not like
Exactly.
It's right. I mean, if it's weird to you, then I think this guy, along with his wonderfully prescient piece about why liberals should back Neil Gorsuch, he should do some introspection on what the Supreme Court is and who is on it.
Yes, exactly. I don't know which part is more offensive to me at this point. The feigned ignorance that or does he really not, like, is he actually surprised, or is he just pretending to be surprised because he realizes it would be a bad look? Because
I would say being surprised is a pretty bad look too. If this is
absolutely it would be. Absolutely it is. That's what I was gonna say. Is that people have been sounding the alarm on this for decades, and plenty of people have seen this coming. As soon as Kennedy retired, we all knew this was going to happen. And for this, like, if he's really surprised, then he has a problem. And if he isn't really surprised, then he has a problem. And I'm tired of that. One of the things that I kind of realized a couple of weeks ago is that I'm tired of the fact that our political system does not reward the people who were already right, because they're not in the mainstream, so we can't have them. So we get instead the people who brought us all the problems we live with now. Well, they're still in charge. But
yeah, I mean, and that's the case for everything, though. The people who have the unpopular position that is the correct and right position, they rarely get to enjoy the or bask in the glory of their well thought out and prescient take that they had prior to it bearing out. I mean, it's it's the truth. And the people who have the terrible takes, the ones that are completely wrong, they usually end up reaping all the benefits of the love and popularity, regardless of them being wrong.
Yeah, it just tires me. But you're right that it's pretty universal. I just remembered the essay. I think it's. I don't remember if the title was "I was a premature anti-fascist," but the phrase "premature anti-fascist" was in there. I think the author was Bernard Knox. He had gone to fight for the anarchists in the Spanish Civil War. Then he came back. Then he wanted to. I think he was applying. He joined the army later. Fought in World War II, and he came back and he tried to apply for something, and they said, "Well, see, the problem is you were a premature anti-fascist. You were against them before it was okay to be against them, and that should not be a thing anyone ever says." But yeah. Anyway, so
let's talk about the Supreme Court. Let's do it. Yeah, it's not. It's gonna be another. Yeah, let's do it.
Yes. So the decision that came down today, I think the thing that shocked me and that I think is more dangerous than even I had expected is the reliance on whether this right or whether this regulation can be extended into the past. Whether you can find it in the past, I mean, because the originalism, as I understood it before, already it's inherently at least small c conservative, because you have to go to the past. but you can find people in the past who were better, and you can find better ideas, and you can try to build a project, like build something that is better, and say that, yeah, well, Thomas Paine was cool and he was a founding father. I'll go with that. But this literally says if no one, if in the past it wasn't done, you can't do it now. There's no progress. There's no movement.
Yeah, it's I think what needs to be done, and I don't know how else to open up the eyes of people who disagree, who are anywhere left of center, is that the court as an institution needs to be either expanded or dismantled. Either which way you want to go, one of those must be done, and then immediately
Yep.
everything that's just been undone over the past, honestly, just even in this one Supreme Court term, or I can't remember if that's even
Term is right.
Needs to be reversed. I mean, this is just ridiculous. And I mean,
Absolutely.
we haven't got the climate decision yet, or or Roe v. Wade. I mean, there's a small piece of me holding out that, like, maybe they're holding Roe v. Wade because they are going to not give us the decision that we think they're going to give. A very small part of me, that the optimistic side of me,
you have more optimism left in you than I do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think this is going to be the case, but there's a small piece of me that thinks maybe, it's been bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. What's the reason to hold this till the very bitter end? I don't know. I mean,
I don't either. Although they have lately, I think, as a matter of just the way the court operates, my understanding is it kind of makes sense that the blockbuster decisions tend to come at the end of the term, because they're the ones that take longest to think about and write and justify and all that. But and they're the ones they want to hang on to the longest and, like, really think about. But I almost feel like it's been a little bit on the nose that the last several terms, it seems like they have a tendency of ending the term on a real big one.
Yeah. I mean, the one that comes to my mind is when they held the Obamacare decision, and that wasn't. That wasn't that. Do you know what I mean?
I think that was the last. That was like the last decision, the last day of decisions of that term, and I think it's been creeping further and further back into July. I think at the time they used to take their break. They used to finish the term earlier, because I think I remember hearing that even going as late as like June 20-something, that was considered late at the time back in 2012. That said, thank you for reminding me of the Dobbs case, because the draft Dobbs decision and the gun decision today, that both have those references to history. And the other thing that I find disturbing, although nothing new, but still worrisome, is the way that these decisions claim, like the claims they make about the historical record don't actually match with the historical record. Abortion was legal for the first 30 or 40 years of the country's existence, because we adopted British common law, and under British common law, it's not even an abortion. It's not like, you can't even think of it as a murder until quickening. And people were ending pregnancies on purpose. I mean, we've been doing that for as long as we've had modern humans. And with regards to guns, the court said, well, there's no clear historical record of regulations of guns, when the law in question was 100 years old. And we also have very good records of, back in the Old West, you'd have to come, if you came into town, you'd have to check your gun with the police, with the sheriff. Throughout the country, there've long been regulations on especially handguns, because anything you can conceal, that folks understood the danger there. But the claim that nothing is there just really shows how nakedly they're willing to just ignore even their own justifications.
Right.
That is a little bit new, but it isn't surprising at all, obviously.
Oh, right. Yes.
Sadly.
Not at all. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what to. I mean, I think we don't have a party that's going to do something about it. That's the thing.
I know.
We don't have anyone who understands the gravity of the situation and what needs to be done. They really do think this is business as usual. Like this is obviously the effect of the Trump years, but like this is worse. We're in a worse time right now than the 4 years that Trump was in office. In terms of like and obviously this is connected. It's a direct result of it. But like we are now feeling the real reverberations from it. We are feeling the real effects. And I think this is going to go on until someone realizes that it's not going to matter what, who the president is. It's not going to matter who has the House or the Senate. Unless the people, the party, and the individuals who have the presidency, the House, and the Senate are ready to do something about it.
Yeah,
it's not going to matter who is in those offices. They can help curtail some of the pain and suffering, but it's going to be there until they decide to step up and do something about what we have going on in the courts.
Absolutely. I was going to say this is going to continue to get worse and worse until either we hit rock bottom or we expand or abolish, or possibly, I guess, 50, 60 years from now, probably longer, because we don't have organized money on our side that's like committed to our side. I suspect that you've either made the point yourself or been on somewhere else when the point was made. But like, imagine if we had if there were a billionaire who, and I hate thinking of relying on billionaires, but just for the sake of the argument, or imagine there was some kind of fund aligned with normal Democrats, but who were ideologically committed,
right?
The way that there are on the right.
Right. Off the top of my head, what's JB Pritzker up to? Come on, man. I mean, honestly, from everything I've heard, he's been really good, and from what I've seen in terms of like the media coverage, when I've seen him out there, he seems to have shockingly be a fairly sort of mainstream, successful mainstream progressive governor. But the dude also is loaded. Come on, man, step up. Let's
Listen, the newspapers aren't doing particularly well, but they're still important. You wanna have a loss leader on your ideology? There you go. Local papers or alt weeklies or stuff like that. Get in that, develop some media talent, develop some stuff. Anyway,
right.
Because
I mean, the problem is though, there's the right does have all these these think tanks and societies and organizations like the Federalist Society. I mean, we don't have anything like that.
No, we have the American Constitution Society, which the Democrats don't treat anywhere with the kind of deference that the Republicans treat the Federalist Society, and which is nowhere near as well funded or as big. And we also have the National Lawyers Guild, which is leftist and therefore not in the room at all. When maybe they ought to be, because I have a feeling that some of the better potential judges out there are going to be people who are affiliated with them.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
But alas.
But that's also another thing, though. Like, we know the right-wing politicians want those right-wing justices. I don't know if Democrats necessarily want the more progressive left-wing judges. You know what I mean?
No, I know.
Yeah,
I mean, honestly,
that's another problem too. Like this whole idea that the Democratic Party being a big tent is good. Maybe in terms of like, I don't know. I can't even think like elections maybe, but we know that's not the case because the idea that the big tent is what wins them elections is bullshit because whenever they try to reach out to those suburban Republicans, they lose.
You can get them excited to vote against Trump because Trump was uniquely bad and fumbled COVID. I think if he hadn't fumbled COVID, he would have been reelected in a landslide. I don't think Biden would have done, even with everything else. I just don't think he would have gotten it. But zero coattails, historically low coattails on that man. And speaking of big tents, I live in Rhode Island, and the Rhode Island Democratic Party likes to think of itself as a big tent. They are so big that some members of some elected members who are good with the leadership here are anti-abortion. They are they're anti-gun control. They're anti-regulation. I don't know if they're anti-union because unions are an important constituency here, but they are generally, they would describe themselves as pro-business. A few years ago, a leftist journalist named Steve Ahlquist went to the Democratic Party had its platform committee happening, and he went to one and he asked, so if this tent, how big does this tent get? Who's actually left out of the tent? And they didn't want to answer, as I understand it. I asked him later, but point is, the big tent idea. The only thing that it seems to be good for is to enable the what I've come to call the passive aggressive domination of that political class, and it's not even, that isn't even delivering the results that they promised back in the 80s and 90s anymore. It's worthless, but as we went over earlier, just can't quit them.
All right, thanks for the call. Really great discussion on this. I didn't get to cover it so much in earlier decisions on my show, so I'm happy you called in to talk about this one. And I'm guessing I will get a little bit more into it, into the the Roe decision. But I did want to talk about this one. I mean, it's to use the name of one of my regular listeners and callers. It's really grim. It's really grim.
Yeah, it is.
Have a great night.
Thank you so much. You have a great night as well. Thank you.
Take care. Bye. All right, let's go back to the phones. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's your name? Where you calling from?
My name's Simon, calling from Virginia.
Hey, Simon from Virginia. Not unfortunately. I've been to Virginia. It's a beautiful place. What would you like to talk about?
So I kind of wanted to wonder what your take was. You know how there's all this anti-trans propaganda in the right wing now, and they're advocating for murdering gays and stuff in the churches and whatnot. Obviously that's bad, but what do you think the Democratic approach should be to stopping that to happen? Do you think it should be through schooling, legislation, or what?
The anti-trans rhetoric that's going on right now. I think that obviously first of all, the number one thing that they could do is use the bully pulpit. I mean, if I was a Democratic congressperson or the president of the United States, I would be putting this shit on blast because the vast majority of people, without a doubt, do not feel this strongly about this stuff. I know that when it comes to LGBT issues and LGBT rights, trans specific issues are way less along with the larger public than maybe like gay and lesbian rights. But still, I don't think the majority of people have such a strong feeling of what's going on with right now on the right. And I would say that there's a huge difference between just ignorance on these issues and outright hatred and homophobia that we're seeing from the right. People could be ignorant about the issues because they just don't know, and that's fine. I mean, it's that's not the same because those people,
Right.
they learn and they, I think we saw that a lot with over the past decade with gay rights. I think we're going a little bit backwards now. I also think tying it all to hold it because it's not just anti-trans rhetoric too. Like people have to understand that they are pulling the entire LGBT community and their allies into this. So people need to. I don't think the Democrats are doing a good enough job of just getting it across to the public that like, is there someone who is gay in your life? Is your son, daughter, is your best friend? This is what the right currently thinks of not only them, but you. They think you're groomers targeting little children just because you want little kids to know that it's okay if that's who they are, no matter who they are, whether they're straight, gay, trans, we're all equal. They think you are a groomer, a sexual deviant, even though you're not even talking about sex. They think this about you because you support your gay child.
I know. It's completely outlandish. They've really gone off the deep end. Like,
I don't think the majority of people, I don't even say I have to say think. The majority of people, outright declarative statement, the majority of people have no idea this is going on.
I know. I mean, like, you saw that book, what was his name? Matt Walsh, I think his name was, he made. Dude, like, how are you going to make that and then give it to elementary school kids, dude? Like, come on now. You can't do that.
What book did he has a book?
Yeah, he had this children's book called, like, Johnny the Walrus or something. And the whole thing was, like, Johnny wants to be a walrus, so his mom put him through, doctor's stuff to change his feet to fins and to feed him worms on purpose. And it's supposed to be like, oh, the trans people are forced into all this stuff. It's like, dude, like, I mean, when it comes to, like, trans issues, like, they're really only a big deal because of the right wing. I feel like nobody should care. Like, I don't care what you identify as or what gender you like, really. The only reason I have a problem with it is because they are discriminating against. Like, I'm not sitting around like, I wonder what this person likes. It's like, I really don't care.
Hell, I've had people call into the show who are LGBT, and they've told me the same thing, that they don't want to talk about this stuff. This is not what they don't want to debate their identity and who they are. It's not up for debate. This is ridiculous. And I fully, I hate, and I've done, the two recent conversations with right wingers I've had, both of them wanted to opine about trans issues. Again, no one on in the discussion is trans. I mean, does that mean you can't talk about those issues? No, but at the same time, like, why are you so obsessed with this? It's ridiculous.
Dude, they should be talking about, like, unions and things that have, like, massive impacts on people's lives, like minimum wage, healthcare. But instead, we have to dedicate, like, a good % of our energy to, like, fighting, like, propaganda in, like, deep Louisiana, where people are like, we don't like gay people. It's like, bro, like, just stop.
I mean, I don't think it's just, we don't, I don't, I know what you're saying, but it's not even like a geographical thing, honestly. I mean, we saw in California a library that was doing a drag queen story book hour got interrupted by the Proud Boys. I mean, this is not, this is getting bad. I don't think I've ever tweeted about drag queens at all. And then all of a sudden, over the past month, I've like made like 100 tweets about drag queens. I mean,
I know.
listen, I'm from the punk scene in New York. Drag is totally just something that doesn't even like cross my mind. I've seen people dressed in drag all the time. I've seen shows where it wasn't even a drag performance, just a punk artist there, a band. Their singer is dressed in a dress because that's what he wanted to do, because it's a punk thing, dressing in drag too. Like I've seen drag queens. It's never even crossed my mind that people would look at this in the year 2022 and be like, this is something to be outraged over. It is so bizarre to me.
It wasn't even this bad like 5 years ago though. Like when Young Thug came out with that album, I forget what it was called, but it had Wyclef Jean on it. He was dressed in a dress on the album cover, and there was no like pub outrage about it. Like nobody cared back then. That was 5 years ago. I feel like it's gotten worse, if anything.
Yeah, no, it has definitely gotten really, really bad, and it is a deliberate strategy by the right to dive into these cultural issues. I mean, I don't think they're cultural. This is not, these aren't cultural issues, but that's how they look at it. It's a cultural issue that they can win on because they think they have something with the whole wokeism bullshit. I don't see it connecting with anyone outside of the right, honestly. I mean, maybe you got like the young people who like fell for like Gamergate bullshit, fall for this stuff. Like, but I mean, those are already reactionaries. I mean, the vast majority of people don't want to deal with the right wing complaining about everything. Like the Lightyear thing is a perfect example of like, have you seen the clip? It's like, it's a millisecond peck that this same-sex couple, these two women do. It honestly looks like more like an Italian greeting than two same-sex lovers.
I know.
And this is what they're outraged over and creating a whole outrage cycle over. People don't care. People don't care. I mean, outside of their, I mean, they are getting louder. That's why it feels like it's getting bigger. But I think the vast majority of people are not interested in this stuff. Like, it's just not.
For sure. I think so. I come from an upper middle class area, and my family is mostly white. And my brother recently, he's 2 years younger than me, so he's 14 or so. He recently got into watching like Ben Shapiro, and I think what he fell for is somehow being convinced that like straight white people were under attack. Like I think
what was his example? This is your brother, you said? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was my brother.
Is he?
He's just he doesn't even give an example because he really doesn't know what he's talking about. He thinks that like in schools they're teaching people to be transgender and that like we're investing so much money.
What does that even mean? What does that? Like, you should ask him. What does that mean? How is one taught to be transgender? Explain this to me.
Dude, like he sometimes argued to me about it, and I'm like, dude, who cares? And he's like, well, I don't care, except that they're forcing people into it. It's like, dude, what are you talking? Nobody's being forced into it. Like it's a personal preference. You can't be forced.
I am the most open-minded person on the planet. My upbringing in New York City, in the punk scene. We were doing crazy ass shit in like venues that weren't legal venues. I've known people of all types, no matter how they identify, who they are, whether religion, sexual orientation, identity, whatever, everything on the planet. If learning about their experiences and interacting with them was to turn someone into exactly what they are, then I would be a candidate that the right would be able to hold up saying, look, but that's not the case because you can't be taught this. I was born the way I am. I am attracted to the opposite sex. I feel like a dude. I was born as a dude. That's just who I am, and it's just what it is. I can't be taught any other way because you can't do that. And anyone who feels that they are of a different identity, a different sexual orientation, because they were born that way and there's nothing they could do to change that. It's just that simple. The teaching is to teach someone to be accepting of someone who's different to you. That's all it is. That's what they're teaching you in schools. They're teaching you that, hey, your friend who you're playing with, the building blocks with, you're playing the Legos with, you're playing, soccer or basketball or football with, your buddy right there. If you just happen to find out tomorrow that he's gay or she's a lesbian or they're trans, guess what? They're still the same person you always knew and hung out with. That's just who they are and how they were born, and you should accept them for that, just like they accept you for who you are. That's all kids are being taught. That's all kids are being taught.
Another thing is, it's not like that. I challenge the Republicans, how about you decide to change your preferred gender? Test it out, see how it goes for you. That's just, it doesn't happen like that. You're born with your preferences, and that's just who you are.
Yeah. Next time your brother brings that up, ask him. Keep digging down too, because he'll keep kicking the like how you said there's a war against white people under attack, and then he was confronted about something, and he goes, they're teaching kids to be trans in schools. What? He did not explain either of those things. How are they attacking white people? How are they teaching kids to be trans? Give me examples. Give me examples of what they're doing. He's got nothing for you. He's gonna have nothing for you.
He'll pull up Tucker Carlson clips or something. I don't know. Anyway, I feel like that's all I really had to say.
Yeah,
it was fun talking to you.
Thank you for calling in. I always like hearing from. I love when I talk into conservatives or right wingers. So the next best thing is someone who's got a family member who basically I'm debating them through you.
I know, Virginia, man, it sucks.
Virginia's not. Virginia's certainly moved over the years, so it could be. You're pretty much in a. I know statewide it's not the same, but in terms overall, you're nation, not in a presidential race or something. You're pretty much in a blue state now.
Yeah, well, that's basically just because of Northern Virginia. There's Northern Virginia, and then there's all of the rest of Virginia. Northern Virginia is pretty liberal, because it's mostly just urban areas. The rest is rural areas and all Republican.
Probably got a lot of people who work in DC. Probably.
Yeah,
there,
for sure.
Right? Yeah.
Anyway, it was great talking to you.
All right, great. Great talking to you too. Call in anytime.
Bye-bye.
Let's go back to the phones. Ooh, I have a bunch of people trying to call in, but I wish Skype had a phone line where here we go, where people could just wait and I could just pick them up as they stay on. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Matt. This is Steve in Washington State. How are you doing?
Steve, you said?
Steve in Washington State.
Hey, Steve. I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I've been enjoying listening to the show. I just wanted to talk. I'm a teacher out here. I live in a rural county, actually, in Washington State. And just listening to your last caller, it's kids don't discriminate or aren't hateful towards other kids. That's only taught to them by parents. There's a lot of kids, who maybe present as non-binary or who present as, LGBT, or we even have trans kids in our school district. And most kids just are accepting of it. The only kids that I've found that are actually hateful towards it get that from their parents. It's really, honestly, it's just kind of sad and disappointing to see that.
I will say, how old are you? What grade do you teach? How old are your students?
Yeah, I teach K through 5. I'm one of the specialists in our school, so I teach K through 5.
Okay, so my son is in first grade. I mean, first grade is basically over. It's the end of the year. He's going to be in second grade. This year he was learning. They were talking about a lot about Martin Luther King and racism and slavery, and it just blew his mind that this is. And again, I'm in New York City. He has friends who are of all different backgrounds and races. We live in a neighborhood where white is the minority. I mean, my son, he's Latino too. But white is for me. I'm in the minority here, and he thought this was wild. He really needed to be like, I really needed to, like, he got it, but he would just be like, his mind was so blown by it. Because, like, and I've heard this from like a lot of older, he's probably too young right now to really get like the other stuff, gender identity and everything. Happy to talk about it with him when he brings it up, but he, from what I understand too, of like, Gen Z, the Gen Z generation as well. People, those are kids who are currently like in what, high school and college. These issues are just like not a non-issue to them.
Yeah.
It's
and I'd say also parents have. I'm pretty lucky, even though I live in a rural county. I think our parents do a pretty good job of teaching kids, like, yeah, like, this isn't a big deal. Like, if a kid wants to present as non-binary, or if there's a kid who's trans, like, it's not a big deal. Like, they're not different than you in any way that you're familiar with. Like, you can still play at recess, you can still do art class with them, you can still just like go to school and have fun with the kids. And as long as like parents are doing that and saying to be accepting to that, and especially, I'll also add, especially if teachers are doing that, that's a big deal. I have seen teachers do the opposite, and it's really destructive. Like, there's only one teacher I know that does this, but like, she creates a space that's not the most welcoming, which is really sad and disappointing. But
what does that look like in today's day and age? Because I'll tell you, I remember, I've heard stories, like, I wasn't in the class. I will say that millennials had to really sort of we were the generation that I would say really had the experience of both. Like, we had to really fight for it in our upbringing, to see for our friends who, me saying this as someone who isn't, black or Latino or LGBT,
yeah,
or Muslim, but we had to really, like, we saw the blowback, but we also had enough people to also fight back too. We were in the weird the in-between generation where, like, I think a lot of these social justice issues were fought, honestly, at least the modern ones. I'm not, obviously every generation has their social justice causes, but I'm always like astounded by how it seems like Gen Z and younger are just so it's so much easier for them to just come out in ways that, again, I'm sure it's still difficult, but it seems like it, just based on the fact that more people identify as LGBTQ than ever before.
I think so. And like, I'm almost 40. I'm turning 40 next year. And I remember when I was in high school, like, we had like the Gay Straight Alliance in high school. That was like the group of kids that did that in the club. And I didn't really get it. I wasn't in tune then. I didn't really get it. But now it's so open and it's just so accepted. Generally, obviously there's kids that still are against it and might act differently. But like, even the bullying at my district, it's like, okay, it's not okay. And we see kids standing up for them. So I think, like, I don't know. I still really do truly believe that, like, okay, even if a kid isn't accepting, but it's just kind of neutral on it, if a kid is actually straight up discriminatory, or if a kid is hateful or bullies other kids for their sexual orientation or for their trans identity, like, that's taught to them by their parents or by their church, or it's taught to them. Like, I don't think kids are innately discriminatory or hateful of people that are different of them. And it's like, it's the same thing with, like, I'm not going to go into that, but yeah. I only wanted to talk about one other thing, and then I'll go. But
yeah, sure.
I don't know if I saw a couple of days ago. I don't know if you've mentioned it, but Hillary Clinton was back in the news speaking about the transgender issues. Did you see the comments that she made about it?
I did. You want to run that by people, for people who aren't familiar? I don't remember exactly what you said off the top of my head, but I know exactly what you're talking about, though.
Essentially, she said that, like, this is one of the most important election of our time, and the only thing that matters is winning the election. And then specifically, she mentioned transgender issues. She said, the more that Democrats focus on the transgender debate, that was her words, the transgender debate, like, then we're more likely to lose the election. And then she went out and saying, like, why are we attacking J.K. Rowling? Like, this is just a losing issue. The transgender debate is a losing issue. I couldn't believe it. I was just
I think it is unbelievable that it would even be presented by Hillary Clinton as a debate. It is. I would say the one issue I can see, perhaps because I have spoken with, people who think that, like, obviously, it's so new to people and it's presented in a way where it's hard to, but it's also affects such a small group of, like, a small percentage of people, like the issue of sports. I think it's bullshit argument and a bullshit debate, but I can see maybe that being the one that, it's also pointless. Like, why even get involved in there? Yeah. Just, let like, it's not really something to make, to go after. Most trans people are not, that's not their issue, especially nowadays where they're being completely demonized in every shape, way, way, shape, and form. It's like the one thing on the right where they have a point, I think, that connects to people who might not otherwise engage with the conversation at all. Do you know what I mean?
And it really struck me the wrong way too. So, like, I heard the words transgender debate. Maybe I'm stretching it a little too far, but it sounds a lot like the Jewish question. Like why would you bring that up in that language of, like, these people's existence needs to be debated? Like we're debating the existence of people, and we're debating the rights of people, and then we're, as if it's like some sort of question that still needs to be resolved or still needs to be discussed. I was just so disgusted by it that, and I remember, like, she just barely came around to support, gay rights and gay marriage, only until it was a political inconvenience for her to be anti-gay. Like, just, I felt so disgusted because, like, what are we fighting for if the only thing we're fighting for is to win an election? If we're fighting to win elections that stand for nothing, like, what are we fighting for? I'm using the we metaphorically because I'm not a Democrat, but, like, what are we fighting for if we can't even stand up for people's basic rights? I don't know.
Right.
So
I completely agree. I think it's gross that that's framed that way. I hate the idea of it being mentioned, even if you don't mention it as a debate. I don't like it being brought up as a cultural issue. It's not. It's a human rights issue. And it's an easy scapegoat, right? Oh, we lose the election. We lost an election because of the left wanting to talk about transgender rights. I mean, give me a break. Give me a break.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you taking my call. I've been listening to the show. I've learned. I just want to say I like your show because I've learned a lot about crypto. Crypto is confusing, and I've learned a lot from.
Oh, great! I like to hear that.
Show.
That's great.
I appreciate it. Well, yeah. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you for calling in, and feel free to call in anytime.
Thanks.
All right, folks. How long have we been going? Because I wanna really. People have actually reached out to me, and I know you guys love when I go long. People have reached out to me and been like, "Man, I love your show, but it's just too much at once. I can't sit down and watch a 3, 4, 5 hour stream. Can you be more? Can you make them shorter?" And I'm not gonna make them shorter for you guys, but I'm gonna try to stick to the original idea of how long these should be. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, what's up? No picture today, but it's Dave from Jamaica.
That's all right, Dave from Jamaica. You're allowed to call in your boxers if you don't want to get dressed and go on the video stream. No, I'm just playing with you. What were you going to talk about, buddy?
How did you know? You figured me out. but to buffer what the previous callers have said, at least from what I've noticed when I used to work with boys that give trouble, I tend to believe kids are neither good nor bad because generally most behavior is learned, right? Whether they learn it from parents or society and whatnot. So I think why we see bullying.
You're sounding a little bit like Dennis Prager over here. Kids are neither good or bad. In fact, some of them are little shits.
I mean, well, if you say they're shits, they're bad, right? But, it's just like he might have stumbled on an actual point by accident, but most behavior is learned. As in, like when you see kids bully each other, it's usually because they learn it from somewhere. And also, if you see kids are kind, because they learned it from somebody, right? So they're little learning machines. They that's the innate trait there. They learn and pick up what they pick up from society or their parents or what have you. So it's up to us to kind of nip bad behavior in the bud and encourage other stuff, right?
All right.
Um, Speaking to the trans issue, I think for me personally, while I do agree most people are not that animated by it and they're not going to, go out and murder a trans person or whatnot, they don't really care. But on the bad side of it is they don't really care. So in other words, if the trans people are being abused and whatnot, they're not exactly motivated to defend them either. So that is where I see the problem, right? And from my experience talking with lots of people are innately transphobic because the society teaches them to be. So, and that makes it even more difficult because trans people represent a very small portion of the population, which makes them an easy scapegoat.
Yes.
And that, I think most of this is downstream from religion because there's not many leftists in the religion field anymore because
It's a li- I would
the
say I would say
anti-queerness in general.
I would say the right is being moved less by religion now than they were previously, and
No.
we're seeing this rise up now. So it is an interesting dynamic. I mean, obviously religion is part of it, but it's no
Well, all
longer
right, I'll give you an example.
it's no longer being led by the religious right though.
No, it's because it has been leaked into the right mainstream. But usually, I think this is coming from religion in general. Because if you, I'll take it like this: if you want to find the most anti-trans person, odds are they are very very religious or code religiously, right? You know what I'm in that sense. Because from my talking with people, when they have that type of mindset, right?
It's definitely
It
part
is.
of it, but what I'm saying is it's not just that anymore.
No. That's what I said. I agree with you. It's evolved. It is
Right.
kind of leaked out in the mainstream, but the trick is how to counter it. I'm not too sure because it feeds off of certain people's needs to dominate somebody else. To have the bad guy, as how fascist ideology
Right.
kind of works.
Scapegoat. Yep.
You need the bad guy. And while I think I heard Varn talking about it because among a certain group of Catholics, like one of the rare examples of a non-racist fascist movement, they target those type of people, trans folk and queer folk, and that's why you might be seeing some minority groups kind of leaning to the right a little bit more because they use that as the inroad, right? The whatever the cultural norms are, and they're trying to destroy that and that. But my view of it is I don't think there's enough trans people and queer people in general to feed that type of movement for long, because eventually they have to find a new scapegoat, right? And I think that's where the white supremacists will kind of take over the really begin to dominate, because as you said, the trans folk and the queer folk are phase one of the plan, right? Phase two is they're going to have to spread out because they're always going to need a new scapegoat, just like how we've been watching for the past year or so, how the right wing always needs a new thing to be outraged about. Like it was CRT, it was now it's grooming. You will probably end back at CRT again. It keeps on going in cycles because the rage machine needs to be fed constantly. And it makes it hard for lefties to kind of counter that because you're always fighting the next thing, and you can't ignore it either because it sucks people in. It's because
Yeah.
how it makes things very difficult because like I'm trying to when I'm at work and people and a lot of people I work with have reactionary tendencies and so on. And the best I can do is very politely and nicely say, "Hey man, think about it this way." I can't even really go too hard at it because they just kind of turtle up. But I'm not even sure how effective that is,
You
right?
sure you don't want to call them out by name on the show right here, right now? No, I'm joking.
Well, here's the thing. They're like they're working poor like me. Why
Right,
shouldn't
yeah.
I don't know if I can call myself
See, I
working
think
poor.
like I said before, there's a huge
Mhm.
difference between someone having views because they're ignorant, and that people take that word ignorant the wrong way sometimes, just like they take the word privilege the wrong way. Being ignorant of something is not necessarily like a negative thing, like a purposefully negative, like your purpose, like unless you're purposely being ignorant. Um, but like
Well, it's
being
twofold.
ignorant, being
It,
ignorant is
mm.
fine because if you don't know, you don't know, and that's where those views come from. But I don't view someone who's ignorant of those issues the same as someone who is very knowledgeable of them and chooses to be a complete a-hole. Someone who is ignorant can learn and decide, oh, well, I learned. I'm no longer ignorant on this, and I don't agree with my previous views.
No, well, the thing that worries me, even though there is ignorance, right? And when I talk to these people, I do know that the there is they when I listen to them talk about these issues, right? They feel there's a sense of righteousness that comes from it that they feel, you know, I'm the good guy and I'm sticking it to the bad guy type of thing that is very addictive. And ignorance aside, that's very hard for certain people to let go.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
extremely hard.
yeah,
And
but
that's
there's
go
yeah.
ahead.
No, I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying.
Like uh, it leaves me at a loss to how to deal with it. But I just keep trying. But I'm going to keep it short today. Yeah, it is a tricky one. We're in for some rough times for sure. But
Yeah, it's but I mean, we just need, at least in the U.S. here. I don't know how I could help you, but I mean, I guess though in a way, what the way the U.S. goes, it does export or influence how people think elsewhere. It's
I generally am
unfortunately
very pessimistic on queer issues in my country.
right.
I
I
don't
mean,
think
yeah, I understand
I
what you're
don't
saying.
see how that ship's turning around
Right,
anytime soon.
right.
So it's kind of because if you talk with
Is the current rhetoric in the U.S. is that making its way there yet, or is it still just like what you see there is still just the traditional homophobia?
mostly traditional homophobia, but here's the trick: just like U.S. movies, all all rhetoric coming from the empire
Right.
leaks.
Also,
Eh,
I guess that's sort of that framing is sort of wrong too because
Mhm.
the groomer pedophile stuff being leveled right now is actually the most traditional of homophobia. This was something that was done
Yeah,
decades ago.
pretty old
I guess
school.
I was talking like the 90s 2000s homophobia. Is that what you have right there right now? Like, are you were like 2 decades behind us when it comes to the far right rhetoric?
I'll just say it like this: the best way to get in a fight, physical, is to use our version of the F slur, and that's how you get in a fight.
No, but if there's a fight over that, then doesn't that mean that there are people standing up for it?
No, no, no. As in, one of the go-to insults is to call somebody gay. So
Oh, right, right. I gotta say, like that's something that's not um that was really going away, and I don't think that's quite come back yet. Hopefully, it doesn't. But that definitely is not. I mean,
I think certain
I know
areas
Edge
just sorry.
Lord
Go ahead.
I know Edge Lord 4chaners still use the F word. I always hated that word. I never used that word. Uh,
Well, I won't be. When I was younger, I definitely used that
no, I
word.
know.
Glad it's out of my.
When I
Glad
was
that's on my
when
vocab.
when I was in like junior high and high school, it was used quite regularly, and it always made me feel very uncomfortable. I hated it. I hate that it was the same with the R word. I never. I mean, the N word is obvious. Well, maybe it's not obvious, but that's another word. But that I did not use. But when I was young, when I was in like junior high and high school, the R word and the F word were quite frequently used, just like in regular conversation. It always just rubbed me the wrong. I was like, "What do you do? Just okay, just I'm not for me. Thank you very much." That type of person, I knew that was not, that's I'm not gonna hang out with that person.
Well, that's one thing I'll give the U.S. and other countries. They've gotten better with certain things. Maybe they're going back. Who knows? But they've definitely got better with that stuff. But yeah, not so great here. Well, I
Yeah,
guess I now that I think about it, maybe I'm more colored from my experiences, where a lot of anti-queerness is directly religiously motivated down here, while up there it's kind of evolved into more general right wingery, right? So that kind of,
yeah.
but
I mean,
it,
that's. I mean, I don't know as you live there. You can see. You can tell me if I'm correct. I mean, and it's just. I don't think it's just Jamaica. I think a lot of those like Caribbean islands aren't they? Don't they sort of have a track record of being very homophobic because of, I guess, the old culture, the old school culture or whatever.
yeah, yeah. Well, I remember talking with you before about this. And I think Michael's friend who he has a nice frock. I can't believe his last name is also Russell too. But who used to be in Jamaica for a while. There is a unfortunate um misguided anti-colonialism for some folks who relate homo, homosexuality and queerness in general as something derived from imperialism, right? So some people think it is a arm of imperialism type of thing, right? So that's where some of that comes from, and then most of it is kind of religiously influenced, because hey, in the Bible it said this, right? So, and funny enough, the irony of it is, I think the Abrahamic religions are probably more a tool of imperialism than anything. So there's an irony for you, but I think that's kind of where that comes from. But the I want to end this on a more positive note, where at least in what I'm observing in the US is that at least with this labor stuff, I see the buds of something that can begin.
Yeah,
And
we are seeing. I mean, obviously, there's a big fight back against it, but that's a great point. One of the positives we're seeing, like the reinvigorization of, if maybe not unions directly, how people view unions and unionization. We are seeing like an uprising in the labor. You are absolutely right on that. That's certainly something to be optimistic about. And I do think that has more of a shot of reverberate. I'm using that word a lot today, but but that's what we're talking about. That issue has more of a shot of reverberating down to other issues than other issues
100%.
have, doing that same cause and effect to the labor movement. Do you know what I'm saying?
No, no, 100%. I'll end with this because like especially when it comes to transphobia and all the other phobias and racism and whatnot, I tend to believe, especially in like union halls, shared struggle changes minds. That's the biggest environmental changing mind changer there. So I other than like I don't believe in business PR to end racism and transphobia. I believe that if you have good union leadership working with, and then you're working with trans folks and people of different backgrounds, that has a better long-lasting effect at battling these type of mindsets more than anything else, right? Because it's something they have to live. It's a complete environmental change, right?
Right.
And those things tend to stick. Because what I remember when working with the kids that used to give trouble in school and do all sorts of fucked up shit is when they were out of the home where lots of the bad behavior is encouraged or they're ignored or whatnot, they generally, for the most part, especially the longer they were away from home, the better they got behavior-wise. So it kind of led me to think it's environmental factors that change minds more than talking or anything like that, right?
Right.
And I guess why you've been seeing some success, especially with MR and you guys, when you have former right wingers, is a lot of folks unfortunately kind of live online, right? And when they change that online environment, you know, they move out of right wing discords and whatnot, and then move into normal or left wing. It slowly, but over time, it does change behavior, and that's my view of it. If we can change the environment, we can change the thought processes. But maybe I'm a bit too much of an environmental determinist, but that's how I tend to see things. But
No,
anyway,
I
Matt.
mean, I thank you for the call. It's funny that you said you were gonna be shorter than usual. We're almost we're not quite as long as you usually go, but it's not. It certainly wasn't a short call. But I'm happy we talked about this stuff because this was really interesting and we touched on a number of issues. Dave, it's always a pleasure.
I need a timer, man. But later, man.
It's always a pleasure when you call in, my friend. Take care. I see a discussion was started in the chat about what words I'm talking about. I mean, I think you know what words I'm talking about. People brought up the C word as well. You know, I know, you know, in on Turf Island, the C word doesn't have the same oomph that it has here. So the C word isn't as bad, in my opinion. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's always a pleasure when you call in. Oh my goodness, is this Mr. Matthew Bender?
This is Mr. Matthew Bender. You have to turn down the live
Okay,
stream.
let
now.
me.
Yeah.
I know, Matt. This is so very exciting. Exciting news. Hey, how do I get this app to put me up so I can look at you at the same time?
Oh, I mean, can you see me right now? You can't see me?
I can see you, but how do you get to see me?
You have to connect your camera. You might have to go to the preferences at the bottom. Okay, at the bottom of the your screen, you should see a little like camera logo with an arrow next to it. If you click that, you should be able to pick your camera input. There you go.
Oh, what do you think of that? Oh, well, it's kind of dark in here, huh? Hey, I am very happy to talk to you today, sir.
Can I bring your camera up onto the feed?
Yes, please do.
Cool.
I did my beard just for you. Check it out.
Thank you. Oh, very good. Thank you.
You're
Looking good. Looking good. So what would you like to talk about? You seem very pumped. What would you like to talk about? I'm happy to talk with you.
I want to talk about a lot of stuff, but first do you know who's gay? Anthony Hudson, who is Carla Rossi, who is the...
Uh-oh. Wherever you just walked, you just froze on me. You might have went somewhere where there's no connection. Yeah, I just got a message from Skype that I lost the connection. Call right back in. Go back to wherever you were in your home or garage or wherever you were, because you went somewhere you went somewhere where there was no connection. Let's I'll try to call you back. Let's see. You were getting right in the middle of something. Seems like a bizarre spot to just end the call. Let's see. You are back. Yeah, you must have, wherever you went and wherever you were walking, you probably had a low connection there. So
well, let's not go back there again.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I was saying, I believe, was Anthony Hudson and Sarah Ponder have the Gaylords of Darkness podcast. So, anybody that wants to listen to horror movies seen through a queer lens, I highly recommend them. They're a laugh riot. Sarah, Final Girl, I think, is her blog. So, there you have it.
I'll have to check it out. I'm not familiar. Gaylords of Darkness. I'm gonna look it up.
Yeah, so the Gaylords of Darkness have a bumper sticker on my car, as well as, Saturdays and Seltzers. And Saturdays and Seltzers are two young ladies from the Boston area who are trying to breaking into their own landscape for sports. And I'm making them some jackets, Mr. Bender. And you know who else I'm making a jacket for is...
Whoa!
Yeah. I'm working on your name right here. At Matt Bender will go right above that.
That's awesome.
And we'll work on that. Anyway, so these two young ladies, I got to know through the internet. I was working at the Cinema 21 down here in Portland. And I'm in the box office. And so the box office there, we have a big marquee. It's like a 1952 theater. The big theater's got a nice balcony, like 500 some odd seats, and there are two smaller theaters, but I digress. Anyway, so my time in the box office there gave me a lot of time in between movies. You know, you sell tickets for 3 theaters and you're sitting around for a long time. So I go down rabbit holes, and because of an experience I had back when I was a younger person, at work I got sexually assaulted by a male that we had a power differential in. So early on I have like an empathy for people that have had, you know, any of that kind of contact, especially with a younger person, if you have to go through an HR thing and anything. Anyway, so this goes to, I don't know how up on sports you are, but you remember Urban Meyer?
Name sounds familiar. I'm not up on sports at all, by the way.
Okay, well, we won't spend a long time there, but we're gonna spend a little time there. Anyway, so Urban Meyer's this very Christian man, had a career down in Florida with Tim Tebow, which you probably are aware of that name. He was a Heisman Trophy winner.
Right, yep.
These are all fairly religious folks. Anyway, and so then he said he got stressed out and he quit there, and then he moved on to Ohio State, where he brought along an assistant coach he was beating his wife, and his wife knew about it, and he knew about it, and then he lied about it during his NCAA investigation. He had to take some time off. I don't know. Anyway, he wins a couple national championships at Ohio State, and then he has to leave because they found out he was lying about this coach. So he's kind of like shuffled out the side door. Well, anyway, the Jacksonville Jaguars owner, this Shah Khan, I believe his name is. Anyway, he has a shitty team, and he thinks Urban Meyer is the answer to this thing. So
I do know who Khan is, because his son is the owner of AEW, All Elite Wrestling. So I'm familiar with him because of the pro wrestling connection. His dad funded it. His dad is the reason why there is a WWE competitor right now, because he put money into letting his.
God bless them both.
Yes.
And we're all rich because of this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a wrestling fan, so I'm very happy that they exist, honestly. But yeah, that's too bad that we have to depend on another billionaire to take on Vince McMahon. But yeah, go ahead, continue. Right. I just had to. You said the cons, so I needed to drop my wrestling reference. Yeah.
No, because we are going to end up with some commonalities after we get done past this, man. Anyway, so I have a tremendous dislike for this Urban Meyer cat, because I just don't like men that abuse their power in that way. And so I kind of knew his religious background and kind of how the college landscape went. So when he got hired, a bunch of people were really optimistic that he was going to do a really good job. And I was like, he's going to go in there and, really god up that thing and not really spend any time. Anyway, so it's a total catastrophe. That's a rabbit hole you ought to go down one of these days, just Urban Meyer it up, because that it's a gift that keeps on giving. And part of the gift that keeps on giving is he was in I think Cincinnati, Ohio, where they lost their football game with his team, and he owns a bar there, of course, because he was a big hero still in Ohio. Because some people just regardless of their mistakes, they're winners, and we love them just for that. Anyway, so he stays behind and says he's going to play with his grandchildren, which he's not. His wife is playing with his grandchildren. He's out at his bar getting this is on TikTok and all over the place. So, I mean, if many people have seen this, obviously. This young lady who he knows from some other context, I think she might have had some kind of work relationship there at that particular bar that he owns, is actually backing up against his groin while he's like, it's like a trigger finger. I mean, it's disgusting. I'm as outraged as you are right now. I mean, to explain it. So anyway, this is like halfway through the season, and so people are starting to go, does this guy really know what he's doing? And then he hired Tim Tebow. This is all this crap. Anyway, so after that happened, I was in the box office at the Cinema 21, and I was going down the hate rabbit hole of everything I could find of Urban Meyer, because I want to know everything about him. And I run across this little podcast, Saturdays and Seltzers, and I think they had, over on I think they had like 106 views or something on YouTube. And here's this Kendra gal, and she doesn't like Urban Meyer either, because she's a fan of that team, and she kind of saw it coming. And I think she got blocked by his wife because she was sending mean tweets to him. So immediately my heart goes out to this young lady, and I'm the youngest of 4 kids. I don't have any little sisters, so I spend some time kind of adopting in my mind younger people to cheer for. And so she and her co-host just immediately charm me, and they got me to kind of expand my mind about social media. So here I am. I got a Twitter account, so they kind of coached me up on that just by not engaging with me until I kind of learned the proper online etiquette. Anywho, so I'm making them jackets. So I would like to show you. These are coming out great. And by the way, I just found out I'm an artist and an inventor just like 3 weeks ago. So this is fairly new to me. So anyway, so this is one of the ladies' jackets. I don't know. Can you see that?
That is, that's cool. You did what? Geez, that's really cool.
And then where's the other one? The other one's, this one's coming out super hot. Anyway, can you see that one?
I can't. That one looks, wow. You just started doing these?
Yeah, this is well, you don't know about this one, but I did. I started off with Emma because this one needs to be totally redone. The big one.
Right.
But I've already got all her templates kind of cut out, so that one needs to be redone. So
damn, those
anyway.
Those are cool. Those two the two ones for the what were they called again? Saturdays and Seltzers.
Saturdays Seltzers, yeah.
They give it gives off a real 80s vibe. I think they look cool.
Yeah, they're like 24, 25-year-old young ladies, and they're just kind of carving their own way through the media landscape down there, and they know their stuff, man. I learn about hockey, and Sarah covers what the hell? Why am I? The thing.
You just froze again. Uh-oh. We were going for so long without any issue. Oh, you're back. I see you now.
Lacrosse. It's the lacrosse. Okay. Anyway, Sarah covers lacrosse, and she knows all the names of all these people. So
oh boy, lacrosse! Damn, that's really specific. I couldn't even tell you a single thing about lacrosse. Uh-oh. All right, I'm losing you again. I think we're losing connection. All right. I'm going to let you go there. That was, I'm going to have to check out those 2 shows. Gaylords of Darkness, which is right up my alley because I love horror movies. Horror is a big thing of mine in terms of the things I'm into. You guys know punk, wrestling. Horror movies are one of them. I mean, when I was in film school, pretty much the vast majority of the stuff I made was horror related. But that was another life. Saturdays and Cells doesn't seem like something I'd be too into, but I'll check them out. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Matt, it's Tony from Texas.
Hey, Tony, how are you?
Doing all right. Bouncing back from catching the Rona.
Oh, I hope
Um,
you're feeling. But it sounds like you're on the up and you're on
I'm
the
on,
rise. So
I'm on the up. Like I started feeling symptomatic on Monday. By Tuesday, I was wrecked. I was barely cognizant of the chat during the live stream on Tuesday. I just watched. I didn't even try to call in. I was not up for it, but I'm feeling much recovered today.
good
I'm
to
so
hear.
happy to see you. Um, so I've got a little teaser. Maybe in like another week or two, I might have some juicy crypto gossip to share.
Oh,
Not just nothing too exciting, but I might have something kind of fun to BS about regarding some crypto stuff. Um,
oh.
but tonight, I guess I just needed to go ahead and weigh in on the trans talk, since I'm a trans and all that, and wanted to kind of share some of my insight as to like I don't know. Somebody made the argument earlier, like, what? Tell a conservative, why don't you try changing your gender, and see how that goes for you, just on a whim. Like, that's not how it works. And I think it's, the conservatives don't want to try it out, because if they are open to trying things like that, they might discover that they are in fact not the cis hetero that they have purported themselves to be for so many years of their life. And what they're really scared of is, not that kids are going to get turned trans by going to drag shows. What they're scared of is that kids won't be scared of trans people if they go to queer spaces and interact with queer people and discover that queer people are not monsters. We're people like everybody else. And I think that is what really, truly, deeply frightens conservatives, is that a way other than the way they think the world works is feasible.
Right.
The idea that they don't have a hallmark on capital T truth is what scares them. Families like mine scare the shit out of them. And it's only been a handful of years since I really came out to my family. And really just my immediate family. Like, I don't speak to most of my extended family, because most of my extended family is conservative, and, well, obvious reasons. But my immediate family's super supportive. My parents, my siblings, my nieces and nephew, like, all super rad about it. I was already in my 30s by the time I fully came out of the closet to them, and my parents still struggle sometimes with misgendering me, not in any intentional way, but
Right.
they spent 3 decades thinking of me as their son, and it's relearning really ingrained habits of addressing me, but they get better at it all the time, and they always put in the effort.
Wait, so you mean to tell me that when they accidentally misgender you, you don't go online and cancel them immediately? I mean, that's literally what some of these right wingers think, that
Yeah.
even a mistake will get you canceled by the woke society or whatever the hell they. No one. We only go after the people who are doing it deliberately to hurt somebody.
Deliberately.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I've played D&D with some conservative guy and stuff, and he was kind of and after I had to have a talk with him because he got uncomfortable about my female character flirting with a female NPC and stuff, and I just had to after the session be like, hey dude, is there being is that going to be a problem? Like, cause I'm a lesbian, so if there's an issue with like there being lesbians in this fantasy world that we're discussing, is there going to be a problem with me sitting at this table? And he had to be like, no, I'm sorry, like that was
my
like,
issue there wouldn't be anything to do with LGBT issues. My thing there would be like, it's a fucking game. What are you talking? It's literally fantasy world. You can do whatever the fuck you want.
yeah. But yeah, totally beside the point. But like, my nieces, especially my youngest nieces, they're like 8 and 6, and so they were 4 and 6 whenever I came out of the closet, and they had no issues with the transition. Like immediately, without missing a beat, went from calling me Zio Tony to Zia Tony. Like no problem whatsoever. That like my parents like comment how sometimes like when they accidentally misgender me, when like even when I'm not around, like the girls will be like, no, it's Zia Tony, like, and just like kindly and gently like correct them and remind them, and like that is why the conservative movement and the reactionary movement is so invested in how kids are exposed to ideas that don't gel with their conservative dogma, because it is very easy for them to get it. Like they have to be trained to feel bigoted about things. Bigotry has to be taught. It's not something that's ingrained.
Absolutely. And you have the actual real world, yes, anecdotal, but I think it's very representative of I think what's really going on, and I think that's what really bothers them, that young people are not at all bothered by any of this. They're accepting of it. That doesn't mean they are turning into whatever they think they're turning into if they are not already born feeling that way. But it's the fact that they see that young people are accepting of people who are. That's what gets them, and that's why they're going towards this groomer, pedophile ridiculousness. The only way kids could possibly accept gay people, lesbians, bi people, trans people, the only way they could possibly accept that is if they are being brainwashed, because that's also really representative of how they view children to begin with. Children are basically their property. They have no agency. They don't listen to their opinions. I mean, when I was growing up, like my parents and my grandma, they weren't at all really anything strict or bad, but they still subscribe to that like old way. Well, my grandma especially, she subscribed to that old way of thinking of like children should be seen and not heard. The idea that like children should know their place, sort of, I guess. But also I don't think she even really that's it. Honestly, seems like something that she just would repeat because her parents would say it to her, because she would always also talk about how the gay people are so nice, they're so great. She and this was someone who was born in in 1916, I should say. So so she was probably not in the same category as most of her generation. Maybe, who knows? Oh yeah.
But no, my nonna, she was much the same way, and she was born in 1919. That's my Italian grandmother.
My grandma. The story I tell my grandma, we would talk about politics a lot. Sadly, she passed away in 2012. So the politics are not exactly the same right now. The topics but it seems like they're getting there again. But she was someone who voted for like John McCain, for example, because she liked that old school. Like she was, she worked. I forgot what exactly she did, but she worked on a military base during World War II, as far as I understand. And I've seen pictures of her with being the only woman with a bunch of soldiers in like the hanging out with a bunch of soldiers in like 1930 or whatever, and the 1930s. And she voted for John McCain. We had a lot of political discussion. I was the only person in the family really who talked with her about this stuff, and because she liked that old school style, Republican, but she hated. And again, she passed away in 2012, so that was the most recent election when we spoke. She hated Mitt Romney, and she was very positive about Obama in 2012, like right before she passed away, because she saw how Obamacare affected her grandchildren in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
So she was someone who was I guess able to not ideologically set in her ways, and was getting with like the idea of like, hell, I'm seeing someone actually benefit my grandchildren, and I don't like this other guy. So that's who I'm going towards. I would have loved for her to have at least got to the election day, because I would have loved to have seen her vote for Obama, because I'm pretty sure she would have.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I don't even know how we got there. I guess talking about generational changes.
Generational changes, and yeah, the way that we pass on either an ideology or critical thinking. And the choice, there are choices there, and I think I think it's silly to just say, oh well, the younger generation's so much more like evolved than the older generations, so they'll sort it out. I don't really put stock in that, because there's people said that about like our generation, and I know plenty of like reactionary asshats that are around our age or even like a little bit younger.
Oh no, they definitely exist, but there's no doubt about it that there's a real tide change going on here.
Oh, for sure, but as far as like the people who still have the most access to the most levers of power.
Oh, without
it's
a doubt.
still,
yes.
Yeah,
of course,
yes. It's still the same sort of circles of people with the same sort of rhetoric. So I think it's important that we provide as many tools and resources as we can for younger generations to make the most out of the shoddy situation that older generations have gotten them into. I'm a firm believer in planting shade trees that we will never see. And on that positive note, I'm gonna dip out. But thank you for taking my call. Please check your email. I sent you something.
Oh, you? I'm really behind on. I'm like literally weeks behind on messages. It's bad. I got so much stuff.
It's nothing that you have to reply, but there is something. An attached file in an email.
Where? I'm in my email right now. I don't see anything from you. When did you send it?
It was like a couple of weeks ago when you mentioned your email on stream.
Okay, I'm gonna have to search.
Just
for it.
Search for it. I'll Skype you my email address name that I sent it from. That way you can find it easier.
All right, cool. All right. Always a pleasure.
Have a great night.
Always a pleasure talking with you, Tony. Have a great night.
Likewise. Bye.
Bye. I will take. What time is it? Oof. I'm gonna do it, aren't I? I'm gonna do it again. I will take one more call. Let's do one more call, because then I have a few, not too many today. I have some super chats to read. Slow super chat day. Slow day over on Twitch too. It's all good. It's all good. Not every day can be jam-packed. I'm sure people need to take breaks from. Tons of calls coming in at once. Let me take this call. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
You've got to be kidding me that I'm the one that you pick in your last shot for the night. Hey, Matt, my name is Chadwick. I'm in Detroit. How are you tonight?
Hey, Chadwick, and is this? Should I be concerned that I took you last?
No, actually. It's just last thing I anticipated.
Oh,
But I
there we
took
go.
notes. So
I saw
I
a
guess I
bunch.
will just try and
I saw a bunch of
be
people
quick.
trying to call in, and you came up first. And I had noticed that you were the most constant person throughout the night trying to call
I
in.
know.
So
I didn't even know if that was what I was supposed to do. I
no,
just
you were
kept clicking
doing
it, and I felt silly.
yeah, you're doing the
Well,
right. You're
in any
doing the
case.
right thing. Unfortunately, there's no like line of callers on Skype. You basically just got to call in as soon as I finish the call I'm on air with, and I just take them as they come, first serve.
Yeah, I don't that system doesn't break my heart in comparison to the majority report wait on the phone for 2.5 hours. Although it's a fun way to listen to the show. Anyway, I think I'll just bookend off of what our previous friend Tony was just talking about. Really perfect living example of the simple power of like honest to good faith forgiveness to small slights, and how that can be a really, really useful way to approach some of our more, I guess, conservative leaning friends, those of us that are like our peers and those of us that are older than us. I think it's really easy a lot of the time to get super wrapped up into fighting people on semantics and starting arguments real fast because a lot of us on the left are particularly well versed in a lot of this theory,
Right. People have to step
And a lot of
outside that bubble. Absolutely. Yes.
there's just a lot of reading. There's a lot, and not to say that folks on the right aren't there. There aren't plenty of intelligent folks on the right, whatever. But I'm just astounded, left and constantly at the scope and the breadth of the sorts of things that my left peers are super interested in and are willing to study and whatnot. And the amount of reading that gets done, and the culture and the amount of worldliness that gets brought into it, and a lot of that just goes way over the heads of some of our a little bit more down to earth, local level conservative friends, and they get a little bit flustered about that, and they immediately think it's an attack on them if you try to correct things of that nature. And I guess all I'm doing with this phone call is I'm trying to say, let's all just be ambassadors of patience and a little bit of honest forgiveness right now. We're watching what's going on with the January 6th hearings. We're noticing that there are certainly some Republicans, I know they say they don't exist, the reasonable ones who are not MAGA folks and are not complicit, who are not MAGA folks, but there are some of them who are noticing that some of this stuff is wild and they don't actually want to be part of it. And we need to allow that to happen. And sometimes it takes a little bit of reaching on our end. And I know a lot of people don't want to do that, but if we do, I think we can make some progress. Whisper of a dream, like Cenk used to say, but I think we can make some progress with these people if we give them a little bit of space to be wrong, but encourage them to be righter.
I will say, and I think you mentioned earlier about like, being in this like more tuned in bubble, but those people do tend to be like more apolitical. Like I definitely agree with you, but I also don't want people to come away with this thinking like, we're also saying, oh, just be nice to Republicans. No, we're talking about the specific people who, are not so attuned to what's going on. They're just casually, if at all, paying attention to this stuff. Like I really do think the vast majority, they vote every 4 years and that's that. Maybe they'll read a few, the top headlines in political news and current events. But other than that, they don't. Yeah, go ahead.
They don't feel themselves to be bad people or part, and I certainly do not mean to step on you. I agree. They don't see themselves as being necessarily bad people or in the wrong, but they feel so immediately jumped on by so much of this stuff. The idea that quote unquote woke culture is somehow a problem is just a result of that sort of fear and concern and not liking being corrected, just being stoked, ad infinitum by Fox News and Newsmax and whatever it is.
Right. That's
But
the major thing though.
yeah,
It's being
I-
used as propaganda against it and they're unfortunately, because they're not so attuned to what's going on here in this bubble we are in. They don't realize that that's what this is. I also don't want people to mistake this for us saying like social justice warriors are the reason why people feel this. That's just not true either.
No.
Yeah, it's
No,
all
no,
yeah.
by no means.
Yeah.
These are all based on like good faith positions to start with. You find a lot of people who are bad actors right from the get go, and you got to know how to pick and choose those battles. But when it's your parents or like your parents' friends, and you're at whatever. You hear about the Thanksgiving, just bloodbaths that people have with each other, political conversations. And yes, that sort of thing can happen, but those folks are going to be the closest ones that we're going to be able to touch and reach. And it's really hard. It's a real struggle because some of them just do not get it. But patience. They're just people, and they just haven't been exposed to this massive amount of theory that a lot of us have. And they can be shown. I think we're seeing cracks in that veneer right now in this world. But patience, positivity, let's move forward. Let's fix things. The show is called Doomed. You know what? We don't have to be, do we?
Well, I on Doomed I do talk about a lot of things that really show that we feeling it's easy to feel that way, but I also usually that's sort of like the tongue-in-cheek, the ironic thing is that I usually have I usually have more of an optimistic outlook because of just I guess who I am. But no, I think it's pretty bad right now, honestly, in terms of what's going on. So it's hard to. I would say it's hard to even like paint over that, but I know what you're saying, and I think we're on the on the same page for like 99% of it, for sure.
Yeah. By the way, big. This new show, Scam Economy, and like everything else, especially with as everybody has probably noticed, this Bored Ape Yacht Club thing, very considerable laser-focused view on the very, very specific 4chan jokery going on in the crypto. Anyway, I don't even know how I just got into that topic. I'm sorry.
No, right? No, there's a video that came out from Fillion that people have been sending me.
Yeah.
About the board.
It's wild.
I have to watch it though, because before I talk about it on this show, because I will say I've read the blog post that it's based on, the Gordon Goner website. I read that when it first dropped months and months ago. Unless Fillion has discovered something more in his piece, or he just goes a different direction with it. I have to watch where Fillion is on this.
It is,
but
it is a pretty. And I mean, to be fair, nobody wants to jump into these things because that kind of pointing fingers is exactly what I'm talking about. That immediately puts people off from talking about this stuff rationally, like human beings. From the Gordon, interesting.
Right, I got to check it out. But from the Gordon Goner blog post, I mean, I could have covered it months and months ago, but I read it and I'm not sold on the claims it makes. Are there some things that make sense?
For sure.
And match up? Sure. But I think they go a little bit too far with some of it, and I think that undermines it. Again, I don't think it was done in bad faith. I just think it was a jump from someone who might not have experience writing about or covering quite frankly, the far right and neo-Nazis and white supremacists. I have to check out the Fillion.
Yes, that's absolutely fair.
I have to check out the Fillion thing though, and I'm going to check that out ASAP. Thanks for the call. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. Everybody enjoy your evenings. Thank you very much for taking me as the last call for the night. What a nice man you are. Thanks, friend.
Thanks for calling in. And I appreciate it. The last call being nice and concise. Take care.
Trying to help.
Have a great night.
Night.
What a nice positive way to end the episode. Of course, someone completely new just tried to call in. along with, I see 1, 2, 3 other regular callers. I gotta say, I'm really bad at this, but I'm gonna try to stay focused. Let's get to the super chats and not take it. Let's go here. Renee with a bunch of super chats. Let me read all of Renee's super chats. Like millions of voices suddenly silenced, Manichean moralism, Tim Pool's The Ontology is just badly rehearsed Rand. Ooh, I like that one. Tweeting Vatican to get Matt Walsh excommunicated. And in some cultures, you're only gay if you are bottom. Renee, what you were on such a roll here with the some of these comments, and then no, but all right. Thanks for the super chats, Renee. I saw you tried calling in. I will take your call next time you call in, I promise. Tripod with a super chat. Can we get a live scam economy from the Stone Pony in Asbury Park? And one of these days, I promise to call in. Peace, Brother Binder. I would love to do that. I don't think the show is quite big enough for Stone Pony in Asbury Park. But yeah, maybe as part of like a bigger thing that goes to Asbury Park. Like the live scam economy I did in Brooklyn was part of like a bigger like digital festival type thing. Now let me go to Tokyo Hans with a super chat. Just my weekly tribute. Thank you, Tokyo Hans. Really appreciate it. Over on Twitch, twitch.tv/MattBinder. If you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, don't forget to connect your Twitch Prime account so you can give me a paid subscription at no cost to you. Amazon basically comps you a paid Twitch Prime subscription once a month. It seems like about 20 people's subscriptions have lapsed and not renewed. You have to manually resubscribe with the freebie Twitch Prime subscription. Amazon does not allow that to auto-renew, so definitely go do that. If you wanted to renew for me, maybe you give it to another creator, which is totally fine. Not really. Joking. Boogie Buttons, thank you for subscribing via Prime. Veritas 79, thank you for subscribing via Prime. Really appreciate the support. And over on Patreon, the people who have supported this show, and the thing happened again where I got a bunch of new patrons, and that same amount of number basically had to cancel. And being that there's exit surveys, most people tell me why they cancel. Unless they're being nice, they say most people have told me it's because of financial difficulties. I totally get that. So if you can't afford to support this show, I would really appreciate it. Patreon.com/MattBinder. When was the last episode of Scam Economy? All right. These are the fine folks who joined the Patreon since the last Scam Economy. Mike D. Michael D. 2 different Mikes. Tabitha B. Raquel F. Miss Martian. And Colin O. Thank you all so much for becoming a patron. I cannot do the show without my patrons, without my super chatters, without my Twitch Prime subscribers, and without the wonderful people who, at no cost to them at all, leave me reviews on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Type in Scam Economy on either of those platforms. Type in Doomed on either of those platforms. And be sure to leave a review. It is a great way to help people find this show who have no idea it exists, because it helps push me up the Apple Podcasts and the Spotify rankings, which actually work in getting people to discover these programs. So again, appreciate all the support, all of the love, whether it's telling people about the show, whether it is monetarily supporting this show. It means the world to me. And now, before I say goodbye to you all, till next live stream, who should I raid over on Twitch? Who should I raid on Twitch? I got to start asking that question before I do those mentions, so people can actually start getting it in the get it right away so they can tell me. So who should I raid on Twitch? Let's see who's going to get the raid. We got Amy EC3. She's live. I always do Amy EC3 and totally well deserved. I'm trying to do this thing where I send it some new people. Who's Toad PhD? Who is that? And is that a legitimate Oh my god. I don't know what Toad PhD is, but that is a wild stream I just jumped into here. I'm going to have to check this stream out myself before sending over a raid, honestly. Christ. Who's Thug Shells? Who's that? Again, I'd prefer to raid people who are I don't, maybe this person is. Let's see. I have no idea what the stream is, but I don't think that previous one Toad PhD was. I'd like to raid a fellow people, people who my viewers would also like to watch. Let's see. We got is Ravana on? I don't know if I know who Ravana is, but I don't know if I've ever actually she is live. Cool, let's do that. Let's raid Ravana. Really easy. Someone who I don't think we're usually not on at the same time. So, even though I know who Ravana is. So let's raid her for sure. Let's do it. All right, folks. Thank you so much for the support. Let's do it. I will see you all next time on Scam Economy.